Hi there, it's Matthew, your virtual tour guide. And I'm sure most of you have heard of Charles Lindbergh and his first non-stop flight across the Atlantic. But how many of you have heard of Clyde Pangborn and Hugh Herndon? I mean, some of you may have actually heard of the Pangborn Airport that sits right there in East Wenatchee. But Clyde Pangborn and Hugh Herndon were the first ones in 1931 to fly non-stop over the Pacific from Misawa, Japan to right here in Wenatchee, Washington. Clyde Pangborn was born in Bridgeport, Washington in 1894, not far from the Columbia River. He spent his lifetime following adventures in a variety of ways. Clyde was known as a daredevil. He was always challenging himself. He volunteered to verify the height of this smokestack by climbing 200 feet to the top. Clyde's fascination with flight began as a schoolboy when he saw this type of plane land in a field by his house. Clyde bought a kit for a Curtiss pusher plane, so called because the engine and propeller were behind the pilot pushing the plane. After he built it, his father would not give him the money to buy the engine, fearing his son would be killed by flying. So he later built this model with himself in the pilot seat, and his name is on the wing of the plane. He joined the flying circus and did a lot of stunts. In 1920, he and his friend, Ralph Reed, made the first successful automobile to airplane transfer on the beach in San Diego, California. They made their practice runs look so easy that the sponsor told them to try and make the stunt more exciting for the crowd. They then proceeded to make it more difficult, and Pangborn missed his grip. He hit the sand at more than 40 miles per hour, rolling down the beach in a flurry of arms and legs. But ever the showman, when Pang finally stopped, he jumped to his feet and bowed to the crowd, seemingly unhurt. He didn't have any broken bones, but he did injure his wrists, shoulder, back, hips, and elbow. When the flying circus days were over, his new goal was setting records. Clyde and his friend, Hugh Herndon Jr., decided that the around-the-world speed record was the record that they were going to try to beat. Pang selected a Blanca Skyrocket monoplane and named it Miss Beetle, after the oil. But in spite of Pang's hard work and planning, the around-the-world record was not to be theirs. But all was not lost. They decided to try for the $25,000 prize offered by a Japanese newspaper for the first non-stop flight over the Pacific Ocean from Japan to the United States. After adding extra gas tanks and modifying the landing gear so it could be released in flight to reduce drag, they were ready to attempt takeoff. On October 4th, they took off from Sabashiro Beach and headed towards America. 3 hours into the flight, Pangborn pulled the release to drop the landing gear. 2 of the bracing rods didn't drop. So Pangborn used his flying circus stunt skills to crawl out onto the wing supports and free the landing gear struts 14,000 feet above the Pacific. Their original intention was to fly to Boise, Idaho, to also set a distance record. But flying east over southern Washington, they hit some really dense fog. So Pangborn chose to turn back and land in East Wenatchee, Washington, where his mother and brother lived. After 41 hours and 15 minutes, almost 2 days, they made a belly landing on the bluff of the Columbia River and climbed out of the plane. The propeller was a little bent, and they had bumps and bruises, but it was a success. Pang's mother, his brother and sister-in-law, and a large part of the population of Wenatchee and East Wenatchee greeted them. They had been listening to live updates about the flight status on KPQ radio. The landing was captured on film, and Pangborn and Herndon were treated like celebrities, with a night at the Cascadian Hotel. Something that I find myself very interesting about the whole thing is the next year, Miss Beetle was sold in 1932 and became the American nurse. The goal was for her to fly all the way over to Italy with 2 pilots and a woman that was supposed to jump out of the plane in Italy, the American nurse herself, and a little woodchuck that was brought on board the plane in order to test any carbon monoxide or anything like a canary would be in a mine. and she was flying over to Italy. She was spotted by the SS France, an ocean liner, about 400 miles away from her goal. And then she disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to Miss Beetle. The only thing that exists is this propeller from the first non-stop trans-Pacific flight, and we have it right here at the Wenatchee Valley Museum. Thanks for watching.